another segment of Amazing Conversations. I'm your host, Lady Andrea, and joining me today is a close dear friend of mine, co-pastor Cynthia Sanders of Rhema International Ministries. Hey, friend.
Hello.
How are you?
I am very well.
Well, listen, each time you and I get together, we always have so much to talk about. So I'd like to thank you for agreeing to join me on the podcast because, we just, again, have so much to talk about. And any opportunity we get together, I'm anxious to do that. So, well, let's start. Did you enjoy your holiday?
I did. Well, let me start by saying thank you for having me. And, of course, as you said, we always have a wonderful time whenever we get together. So I appreciate it. I did enjoy my holiday. It was very restful.
Very restful. And hey, same thing. And you and I, we talk about that a lot. We wear so many different hats that sometimes you literally have to get out of your normal environment just to kind of get a breather. Right. But I want to say this too. Many people may not know, but just kind of give you a little history. And I'm going to call you Cynthia.
That's
Andrea, because that's who we are, right?
Yes.
Cynthia and I have been friends for, do you realize it's been over 18 years?
I do, because our boys were about 3.
Uh-huh.
And they are now 21.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, I never would have thought 18 years later that you and I would have created the bond that we have. Because, again, our boys, when they met, which is how we met,
right.
They were the only 2 little brown boys
right.
at the private school they attended.
Right.
And so it kind of caused us to kind of, connect.
Right.
And I tell you, like you said, just to look at, Justin and Jai being little boys, and now here they are young men.
Right.
It's like, gosh, where did the time go?
Absolutely.
Uh-huh. and I think about one of the things that I know I introduced you as co-pastor, because you serve as co-pastor to your husband, Pastor Scott Sanders. Mm-hmm. But prior to you taking that title, mm-hmm. You were Lady Cynthia or First Lady Cynthia Sanders. And I remember when, in the beginning, where you and I both were almost starting out together as pastors' wives. Mm-hmm. And we were searching, like, we need some kind of guidance, some kind of mentorship. Right. And thankfully I was blessed enough to have my mother-in-law, of course, the late Shepherd Mother Eulalie Rebels. I was blessed to have her to kind of lead and guide me with a lot of things. Mm-hmm. But then again, there was such a big age disparity, mm-hmm. And then the way they did ministry back then mm-hmm. compared to ministry today, it's night and day to a certain degree. Right. And so you and I, we were searching for that mentorship, and we just kind of had to kind of lean on one another. Right. And to look, like you said, 18 years later, and just to see how mm-hmm. God has prospered us, even in carrying us through, the responsibility that comes with being mm-hmm. a pastor's wife. I'd like to ask you, what are some of the nuggets that you have gained along the way? And I'm asking that because just as you and I were seeking, mm-hmm. I'm sure still there are others who are just getting to the point where they're First Lady mm-hmm. and they're looking for guidance and direction. Right. So what would you tell the new pastor's wife?
Wow. Well, I think our foundation, and I think apart from having our boys, mm-hmm. I think the connection really for us really was our spiritual connection and the foundation for, I think for every pastor's wife, your foundation has to be a prayer life. Absolutely. And really that's for any believer, mm-hmm. but certainly for a pastor's wife, you're going to have to know how to pray. Mm-hmm. You're going to need to know how to hear God's voice for yourself. Right. You're going to have to, even just to support the man of God, mm-hmm. you're going to have a prayer life, and to be able to handle that balance between pastor's wife and his wife. Right. Whatever his name is. Yes. You're his wife, but you're also pastor's wife. And there's a difference. And I think that's a challenge for any pastor's wife.
Yeah.
Is trying to find that balance, and making that separation between so-and-so's wife and then I'm the pastor's wife of whatever church it is. You know what I'm saying? So,
absolutely. Yeah. And Cynthia, you are so true in what you're saying, because, I told this a lot to some of my close friends, and I may have even told you this, but I remember my in-laws, of course, were still living,
mm-hmm.
and my husband had not started pastoring. He, was just
mm-hmm.
a minister.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a prophet that came to our church. Did I tell you about
I think so.
Okay. I'll
tell me again.
Yeah. She came to our church, and she came over to me, and she said, "You are a praying woman." And she just kept telling the church, "Y'all see, this is a praying woman." And in my mind, my young baby mind,
right.
I was thinking, this is a false prophet. Because I knew.
I won't pray like
that. I don't pray like that. No, and I knew that.
Right.
But when she said it, it just completely threw me off the entire service, because in my mind, I'm like, she's truly a false prophet. But at the time, I didn't understand that prophets speak to your future and not necessarily where you are at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And as time rolled on and my husband became the senior pastor, then I started meeting certain obstacles and just when you sit in that seat, you have all kind of stuff that come your way. And the only way that you can truly fight is through prayer.
Absolutely.
So I'm telling you, I had to develop a prayer life quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Right.
And when I tell you, that has been my go-to on so many occasions, because again, you just never know what's coming your way.
Right.
And then serving as a pastor's wife, you have to know the importance of interceding for your husband.
Yes.
You have to be that support for him.
Right.
He's one thing in the pulpit, but then, he's somebody else at the house. And then you, just like you mentioned, the difference between being the pastor's wife and being his wife.
Right.
Because my husband tells our members all the time, my wife reminds me that she did not marry a pastor. That's not what she saw when she said, "Oh, I'm going to marry you."
That's right.
Lord
Jesus.
You the pastor. No, I married the man.
Right.
And then sometimes at the house, okay, is this the pastor?
Absolutely.
Or is this the man?
Yes.
So you have to know that balance too.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes, and that's a challenge, because I think the difference in our husbands as pastors, they are almost always pastored, at church, at home, because they're available to all the people, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, but, as the wife, especially if you have children, you're taking care of your home and you're handling people's schedules and things like that. And so most of the time you're in wife, mother mode. And so usually when we become in the first lady, pastor's wife mode is when we're doing church business.
Right.
And so we don't do that all the time. Like the pastor. So it's a difficult balance, but that's why prayer is so important, so that it helps you to keep your emotions, your mind, try to keep yourself steady, because not that you're not human, because we are human. We have meltdowns and everything else, like anybody else. But there is a way that God has equipped us with prayer, so that we won't be one of the problem members to our pastor.
Don't want to be the problem. Because like you say, we too, he's our pastor.
Yes.
Your husband is your pastor, just as mine is my pastor.
Yes.
And I know there are a lot of times and situations where I have to do just that. I have to decipher, okay, is this the pastor?
Right.
Or is this my husband?
Right. And I think that's a key thing for pastors' wives, is to know that your husband is your pastor. Right. I've met a lot of pastors' wives who don't look at their husband, who is the pastor, as their pastor.
Really?
Yeah. Oh. And so, and I think that's what causes a lot of issues. And I think that makes it hard for the wife to really be the type of support that the husband needs as the pastor, and even to connect with the members, because there are pastors' wives who don't want nothing to do with the members.
Yeah.
But God put you together so that you can parent your spiritual parents. And that was something I had to come into knowing and understanding, that you're not just in a position, but you're actually the spiritual parents to your congregation.
Right.
And so, and that's why I think that as a pastor's wife, a lot of things come at us, just like a mother. When you think in the natural, in the home, who handles most of the things with the children?
Mama.
The mother, right?
Yeah.
Who gets, if anything's happening, whatever, it's mama,
Yeah.
And I think that that's a parallel to the church, that a lot of things come toward the pastor's wife, because, and the expectation, when you look at your kids, they're looking at the mom.
You're right.
They're like, okay, the mama, you ain't dressed your child today. You didn't come there.
Yes.
They ain't think nothing about the father.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So in the church, I think that's why the pastor's wife get a lot of the whatever issues. And I always tell my husband, I'm your buff. I tell my husband, I'm the buffer. And I tell the members, I'm your buffer.
Right.
I say, well, if pastor is, heated or whatever, something going on, I'm the buffer.
That's it.
He's going to talk to me.
Treat
He's going
right.
to do all that,
Yes.
God equipped us so we can handle their frustration.
Right.
Their hurt. Their, so that they won't take it out on the people. Until they, can get, into a place where they can deal with whatever the situation is. And so, I tell them all the time, look, y'all better thank God for me.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm the buffer for everybody.
Yes.
And God knows, and that's why pastors' wives are so the position is not just a title, but it is an important position. And I think that's what pastors' wives need to understand, that your position in the body, in your church, is so vital and important, because you are that mediator, so to speak, to handle those things, to be able to minister to your husband and be able to minister to your family, who are your members.
Absolutely. Which really, in the way that I have came to look at, it's a ministry.
It is.
Because just as you said, you're ministering to your husband, the pastor, and you're also having to minister to your congregants, which are your spiritual children.
Right.
And that alone takes a prayer life.
Yes.
Because in the midst of all of that, trying to balance and hold everything together, you still have to not lose yourself.
Right.
And I think that for me, for a while, that was a thing, because I know, again, because my mother-in-law was in place when my husband became senior pastor. All my life I had seen her from a distance, even though as I got older and I started serving, which is a whole nother topic, you and I reached that a little earlier today. I saw how she treated the people. I saw how she responded to my father-in-law even before he died. And then I think I kind of found myself trying to fit in the role of being, we called her shepherd mother, the shepherd mother. But at the same time, like I stated earlier, my mother-in-law, I mean, gosh, she was so much older. I mean, actually, my mother-in-law was probably old enough to have been my grandparent, actually.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I'm, 30.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too old before time.
Right.
But my husband helped me.
Okay.
He said, baby, he said, you have to be you.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you make the position.
Absolutely.
Don't let the position dictate who you are.
Right.
And that helped me, Cynthia, a lot because it was stressing me again because I'm trying to fit in this box. I'm trying to walk this line.
Yeah.
Not knowing that ultimately when God chose him, he automatically chose me. Because when anytime God, the Bible says when two become one.
Yes.
You see?
Right.
So when God chose him to be the shepherd of our marriage, then he chose me.
Right.
And you know my tag, his rib. We are our husband's rib.
Right.
We know.
Yeah.
We are the missing piece of them.
That's right.
So when you're one, that means whatever comes his way is coming at you.
Right.
And then you have to again know still like you said, how to be that buffer and that mediator because that's important. It's very important.
Right.
For a successful marriage and ministry.
Absolutely.
So
I like what you said, and that is so key to pastors' wives in not losing yourself. Because yes, we have mentors, we have people over us who we follow, who we've gained insight from, and but you're still an individual. You have your own gifts and your calling to partner with your husband in the ministry. And I think many times people can get locked into a format of someone else and say and sometimes, and it's good that your husband gave you that encouragement, because sometimes the pastor may be locked into an image of somebody else and how that pastor and that pastor's wife are and operate. But the important thing is that God called you to a particular ministry, a particular flock, and that is not the same as whoever else you might be looking at. And so you can't necessarily pattern yourself after somebody else because they're serving a different congregation.
Absolutely.
And so and you have to get comfortable with just being who you are. I've always said, I'm just, my motto, my ministry, our women's ministry is real women. There's no faking. I'm just about be who you are.
Right.
None of us are perfect.
Right.
We all have our flaws. We have our idiosyncrasies and all of our schisms and whatever, and we're still being perfected.
Right.
And so, but I always say people will accept you for who you are. But when you pretend to be something you're not, the real you is always going to come out.
Absolutely.
So just let people deal with all of who you are in the beginning. And they can see your evolution into being better,
right.
And so, just not, being a first lady or pastor's wife does not mean that you are not who you are anymore. It just means that that's a call God placed on you as he called your husband, like you said. And now you have to continue to take all of who God made you to be and allow it to flow into that ministry.
Right.
And, every pastor's wife is not going to be over the women's ministry. Every pastor's wife is not going to teach, not going to preach, may not sing. You might be a good cook.
Yeah.
And it's okay to cook. Or you might enjoy cleaning.
Right.
It's okay to be a first lady and clean up.
Absolutely.
I've done it all.
Yes.
When you build a church, when you're forming a ministry, it might be a handful of people. And so, hey, you know, even today, you know, still, I'll sweep whatever, you know, church members, they get mad at me, you know, like, look, I know I can use a broom.
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely.
But, so, you know, you just be yourself and allow and grow into whatever God calls you to be as you partner with your husband. You know, I just think it's so important, and really to know what God is calling you to.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you start doing something that He ain't really called you for,
say it,
you'll find out real quick, this ain't what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yes.
And so, you know, it's just better, you know, if you don't know, just wait.
Just wait.
Just love your husband, serve the people, love the people, until you find out what it is.
Yeah.
You know.
And Cynthia, again, that too is vital, what you said, because I know people will do that. They will try and put you in position or put you in places because in their minds, that's where they see you should be.
Right.
But again, when you're true to yourself, and you understand, you know, I'm waiting on God. Whatever God tells me my purpose is, that's where I want to operate, because that's where I'm most effective.
Yes.
And you know, I'm telling you, I've had it all. People, why don't you do this? Why don't you? But I think the biggest thing, again, to being a pastor's wife or a helpmeet to your pastor husband is what we have been circling around already, service.
Yeah. Because
in doing that, there is a lot of service that we do, and especially just as you mentioned with building a ministry. I know, you know, our situation was a little different. We came into an established ministry, but you all built Rhema, you know, from the ground up. So again, there were certain positions until God blessed you with help. Yes, you know, you had to do. Right. You know, I remember again, we were talking about our boys. Look, I remember you and I both working outside of the church,
full time.
Yes, secular jobs, trying to balance that, not to mention the home life, and then still having to do the stuff at the church. Right. You know, my mother-in-law used to say all the time, she'd say, a heap see, but a few know. And I didn't really know what she meant by that. I didn't really know what she meant. But then she kept saying, and then it started clicking. Because again, a lot of people, they see where we are now. And they have it made. And no, but see, you was not there. You know, when we were sweeping the floors. Or painting and laying for a lot of people serving as the usher, praise team leader, look, armor bearer to the pastor. A lot of people don't see that. Didn't see that, and they just think, who is that? Beyonce said, I woke up like this. We didn't wake up like this. We didn't. No. You know, and it's important not to let people make you even feel bad about where God has you today. Right. You know, and I know that was one of the main things she'd tell me. She just called me Shell. Shell, don't you let nobody make you feel bad. You know, when God blesses you, then you walk in it in pride. And that's true. Because I believe in my heart, the more you serve God, He's obligated. Absolutely. To bless you. Yes. You know, and a lot of people, they just want people to constantly give and do for them. But the giving or the gift comes from you giving to others. Absolutely. And that's what we do. Yes. On a daily basis. Daily. You know? Absolutely. And, you know, and during this season and time we're in, and you're talking about serving and giving, and I think that's another part of being a pastor's wife. You can never feel like you're entitled. Because my bishop would always say, people don't have to do nothing for you. That's right. You know, and I always remember that. You know, even, you know, of course, like you said, you've been serving, you've been, you know, before you were pastor's wife, you know, serving and being faithful and consistent. And now, you know, and it is hard to receive. Yes. When you give. It is hard, you know. I know some people on the outside looking in, they think like you said, you have it made,
that you know, you have all of this, or you just got an easy life or whatever, but they didn't see you when you were in seed form.
Right.
This is harvest.
Right.
This is not, I'm not starting over, you know. And so I think the people, we can never feel like we're entitled, so that if I see a piece of paper, I'm not going to call the maintenance team. Can you come clean up this? No.
Yeah.
You know, to always have that heart to serve. You know, that's just who we are as believers.
Right.
You know, and that's what Jesus said, that the servant is going to be the greatest of all.
That's right.
You know, that person who's going to serve, that's who's the greatest in the kingdom. You know. And so, you know, we always have to have that mindset that we're serving God first. And there's a passage in the Bible that talks about, it was talking about giving, the Church of Macedonia, and it was talking about that they gave beyond their power because they were impoverished. They were in the Bible says deep poverty, but it says they gave beyond their power. And then it goes on to say they were able to do that because they gave themselves first to the Lord. Then they gave themselves to us. Okay. And so that's really a key for the pastor's wife. If you give yourself to the Lord first, then you won't have a problem giving yourself to anybody else who you're serving in the kingdom. And so that's you know, I was telling my bishop, Bishop Daniel Robertson, that's my spiritual covering. He was saying, you know, I watched you from the beginning. You just jumping and you just going and serving. And I said, Bishop, that's just how I was raised.
Yes.
I was just raised to serve. I wasn't raised to sit back. And, you know, even at home and, you know, in life, you know, from my mama, my grandmama, you know, in church, out of church, we were just taught, you serve, you help people, you do good. And I think that's really an example of that a pastor's wife should exemplify in the church. Because I always say, the people will be what they see. You know, what's on the head will flow down to the people.
That's it.
And so if you're a servant and you are loving and you're kind and all of that you are as a first lady, that spirit, that heart is going to be on the people that you serve. Yeah, we have some, you know, knuckleheads. Everybody do.
Right.
But the prevailing spirit, the prevailing presence is going to be who you are. That's what's going to get on the people. That's why our role is so important.
Right.
You know, it's the same way in your house.
You're absolutely
in your family.
You're right. And we know, you know, having multiple children, all of them are different.
Right.
You know, they have the same two parents.
Yes.
But they have their individual personalities.
Absolutely.
But again, there are some things that are common that you see in them, and a lot of that comes from how they were raised.
Yes.
Like you say, they see what they see is what they exemplify.
Yes.
And that's so important too. So I want to ask you this. If there's anything that you needed to or would like to share with a new woman who is, you know, whose husband is about to be a pastor or is a pastor, are there any words of wisdom or anything significant that you would just specifically like, any pearl that you'd like to share with them?
I would say don't take things personal. I found in my own walk that, you know, early on, everything was personal, you know, and so that, you know, caused a lot of emotional distress.
Right.
And, you know, and it would give an entrance to the enemy to cause bitterness and resentment to come in. But so I had to learn not to take things personal, to know that, okay, my husband who's the pastor, he has, this is a weight, and it's much greater than what I have to deal with. Right. So even if he's lashing out, don't take it personal. You know, when the people are acting crazy, just don't take it personal. They don't know. You know, but love them. Pray. That's why, again, prayer It's got to be your foundation, because you pray for them. Pray for your husband. Pray for yourself. You know, and find somebody, you know, that you can connect to, who has a like mind.
That's it.
You know, who, you know, ain't talking a whole bunch of foolishness.
Yes.
I think that's so important. Every pastor's wife need that sounding board.
Definitely.
Need that person that they can bounce something off to, who's not going to judge them,
Yes.
who's not going to look at their husband crazy, you know, not going to go back and talk about him and say that pastor, he ain't no good, you know.
Right.
But you got to have somebody, and God has gifted me with you. And I appreciate that, and so you do need that. So that's what I would say for every pastor's wife.
And those are very important words, and so true. I would like to add to that, just because some of the experiences that we've had is, again, you all hear I refer to my mother-in-law a lot, but part of it has to do with one of the things that she told me, and I may have told you. She said, you know, you make sure that the home you create is your husband's sanctuary. You know, it's one thing when he's at the house. I mean, when he's at the church, he is the pastor.
Right.
And he has to pastor the people.
Right.
But when you come home, when he comes home, it needs to be a time where you can kind of de-stress.
Yes.
So she said one of the main things that she told me, she said, you keep your house as your safe haven. She said, don't let people come in and out your house all time of day and night.
Right.
Because when they get home, they too need some downtime.
Absolutely.
Because they're human, just as we're human.
Right.
And you know me. I mean, I switch this hair up a lot. And she said, you want to, you know, wear your hair or not.
Right.
You don't want to have to worry about being presentable
Yes.
to the people. And that's important, because we all need a time where we can just kind of relax and be the individual that God has already created us to be.
Yes.
Prayer, again, I mean, I can't say that enough. Even as you stated, you know, being able to pray and intercede for your husband / pastor, because there are all types of spirits that come. Listen, everybody that comes to your church is not coming for the word of God. Amen. Would you agree with me?
Amen.
And believe it or not, some people, specifically women, I can't say, some women, they come with that. My mother used to call them Jezebel spirits. And they're coming to specifically try and get your man.
Coming on
trying
assignment.
to get that on assignment.
Right.
To get that pastor. But we as wives, with the praying that we do, we have to pray and watch.
Right. Absolutely.
And be that buffer, like you mentioned.
Right.
And that covering to a certain degree even for our husbands.
Yes, we do.
So all of those things are very important. And again, we just want to share that with you. I hope you all have enjoyed our conversation today. Again, you're talking to two, I almost want to say veterans, even though I still feel like a baby in this. Seasoned pastors' wives who both love the Lord dearly.
Yes.
And am thankful that God has placed us in a position where we can serve God's people. So again, we thank you for joining the conversation. Again, thank you to my friend, co-pastor Cynthia Sanders, Rhema International Ministries, pastored by Pastor Scott Sanders. And again, I'm Lady Andrea Rebels, Evangelical Faith Vision Ministries, pastored by Apostle Felix Rebels. Thank you for joining. Have a good night.